Well, in 2015, Kenya enacted the Mwongozo Code of Governance, which is supposed to guide on and, of course, help in the entrenchment of ethical as well as governance issues in state corporations. And, of course, you know, we just want to have a look at that code and ask ourselves, has it delivered and, of course, has it lived to the mandate? Well, joining us this afternoon on Inside Government, we are talking to FCS, Jeremiah Karanja. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Institute of Certified Secretaries. Thank you very much indeed, Karanja, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
We just want you to, first of all, help us understand, how would you describe the state of governance and ethics in both public and private sectors?
Thank you. First, I will start by saying, as you have correctly said, FCS Jeremiah Karanja, Institute of Certified Secretaries. And at the Institute of Certified Secretaries, our key mandate is to promote governance. And we do so both in the public as well as the private sector. You've alluded to Mwongozo, which the Institute actually developed in partnership with the State Corporations Advisory Committee and the Public Service Commission. Now, asking about the state of governance in the public and private sector, I would say, having compared with a number of other jurisdictions, especially within the African region, we have made significant milestones in terms of legal and policy frameworks. You've alluded, for instance, to Mwongozo, which is a code of governance for state corporations in Kenya. Kenya also has a code of governance for issuers of securities to the public by CMA, which also the Institute was heavily involved. So we have made significant strides, though there is always room for improvement. Yes.
When you look at the public and the private sector, where do we have more governance issues?
I think the private sector, and especially the regulated, that is especially the listed companies, the banks, the insurance, they have made significant strides insofar as implementation is concerned. Because, for instance, both Mwongozo, Code of Governance for the state corporations, as well as the Code of Governance for issuers of securities to the public by CMA, they were all issued about the same time. Yeah. When I look at the implementation, because they mirror each other, save for a few, just to customize to the sector, but when I compare in terms of implementation, the listed companies have made significant strides. They have implemented most of the requirements there. In the public sector, we are still struggling. You find while there is significant implementation, you still find a number of institutions which are struggling in implementing some of the key proposals in that document. Yeah.
I'll be coming back to the public sector, but I just want to find out, first of all, when you say that the private sector has made strides in a number of areas, which areas would you describe?
For instance, I look at the board composition. Quite a number of institutions, especially in our NSC, you have what I'll call more or less competitive appointment of board members. You also find every 2 years they carry out something we call governance audit, just to check their governance health. And then the regulator is very key in checking how far are you in terms of improvement. This is where you were last year. What have you done this year? And
the regulator here is the Capital Markets
Authority. The Capital Markets Authority. And another key area I find in the private sector is very clear. For instance, even on separation of roles, you cannot have doubt between the chairman and the CEO, the CEO and the company secretary. Those are held by distinct people, but also not only on paper, but even in practice. You find there is an independent, there are independent functions And therefore, that helps a lot in terms of governance practices in those institutions. Yes.
Let's now come to the public sector.
Yes.
Why are these things not falling? And I just want to, first of all, when you look at Mwongozo, code of governance, it talks about when it comes to the appointment of board members, the issue of transparency must be there, and the issue of merit.
Yes. Are
we living to these principles?
Not very well. Just to provide context, a state corporation is a government body. Yeah. And government by nature is a political entity and is a bureaucracy. Now, that definitely has an impact on the way state corporations are run. And therefore, you could be having a policy in black and white on paper. But when it comes to implementation, there is a government which has come to power and is a political process. Now, those political interferences sometimes affect the way some of these policies are implemented. And therefore, in terms of, for instance, what you've asked, the appointment of board members, definitely it has to take into consideration some of those political considerations. And therefore, it affects the merit and the competitiveness of bringing those people on board. Yeah.
In an ideal situation, which should take precedence? Is it political affiliation or the adherence to the Mwongozo Code of Governance?
Of course, what should take preference is adherence. People should be recruited competitively and based on merits. But unfortunately, in our country, most of the time, everything you do, you first think of politics before anything else.
When the crafters, and I like the fact that you're saying that ICS was highly involved in the development of this document together with the public service, as well as the advisory on state corporations. So when the drafters of this document were coming up with it, did they have that in mind?
Yes, of course we had that in mind. As something we strive to achieve progressively, so that even though we are saying we are not yet there, is something that we are hopeful we will. So when you are coming up with policy, you come up with the best case scenario, and therefore using the legal systems and this document.
You don't plan with the worst case scenario.
Yes, yes, and then you hope for the best, that there will come a time when we will do the right thing. Yes.
But in management, we say that hope is a very bad strategy.
Yes.
I mean, hope must be backed by concrete strategies. So, in the absence of strategies, then what was hope expected to achieve?
What was envisaged, and I still believe the government is committed to doing that. Mwongozo was also supposed to be legislated, or most of those provisions,
yes,
so that the law would then, in mandatory term, require most of those provisions to be adhered to. And even now, we have had good progress. In the recent past, we have had organizations going to court, or even the civil society going to court based on some provisions of Mwongozo. And we have seen court rulings saying, because this is a policy document and it was issued under a presidential direction under the State Corporations Act, and therefore courts have actually held that this is actually law. It has the force of law. And therefore, progressively, we are seeing the courts enforcing some of those provisions. So even what you have asked in terms of the competitive recruitment is just a matter of time. We are sure we will get there. And I also see a lot of commitment from the government on a number of areas. And therefore, even that one, I'm sure one day we'll get there. Yeah.
As ICS, what are you doing to ensure that the code is followed to the letter?
Part of what we've been doing is to partner with the various government institutions. For example, in the month of March, we brought together all new boards of state corporations to induct them together with the State Corporations Advisory Committee, that is the executive office of the president, to induct them on the provisions of Mwongozo. Similarly, last year, we carried out research to find the state of implementation of Mwongozo. And it's worth to report that actually there is, I would say, 70 or so % of the provisions there are actually been implemented. So it's only a number of items which are still lagging behind. So those are part of continuous capacity building of these institutions, advocacy, and with so doing, soon we'll get there. Yes.
When you look at the Mwongozo Code of Governance, I mean, it's borrowed heavily from our Constitution,
yes,
like Chapter 73, as well as Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. And when you look at state appointment, do you see intentions to follow on the constitutional requirements as well as the Mwongozo requirements?
Unfortunately, as I said earlier, sometimes politics take precedence. It's not the best of the strategies. And in doing so, trying to balance different political interests, we find ourselves falling short of the requirements of the Constitution or even the Mwongozo requirements, trying to balance various interests here and there. And therefore, that is an area I think as a country we are still lagging behind. Let me also add, it's not only at national level. Whether you go to the counties, whether you go even to institutions, you also find institutions not only on merit basis, but even on issues of regional balance, for example. Such that if you already know my name is Karanja, and therefore when you look at our website, you are seeing Karanja, Kamau, Joroge, you can tell from the staff members who are there, you can tell who is the CEO there. So it's an area which, as a country, we are struggling and which we need to improve on. Yes.
You're bringing in the issue of the two-layered government systems, where you have the national government and the devolved government. We know that the national government, is making efforts. Would you say the same for county governments?
County governments are relatively new. And I know you may say more than 10 years they should be new. Yes, but in comparison to the national government, which has been in existence since independence, I would say they are still relatively new. The legal framework is also new, and the structures
But they even came before the Mwongozo.
Yes. I would say, when I look, for instance, at the legal framework, there are still some areas that need to be addressed. And that also affects even the structure itself in the devolution. So I would not say that they have done the best they could have done. However, I would also say, as a country, we have also made significant strides in the devolution process, save for these issues we are talking of governance and ethics, because when we see in our media the issues of corruptions and all that, then one would say, just as it has always been said, did we devolve corruption to... but let me also be quick to say, sometimes we are quick in demonizing the counties, and yet we forget is less than 30% of the national budget that goes to the counties. So even as we talk of this,
which is also significant.
Significant.
Because you're talking about hundreds of billions of shillings.
That's true. But even as we focus, we say there is massive corruption in the counties, we should actually look holistically not just signaling. Sometimes I see this campaign about counties as being driven by people who are anti-devolution, and therefore they would want to show devolution is not working, and maybe we should think of going back, which I believe devolution is working. However, we need to improve on governance, we need to improve on our ethical culture as a society, both at the county level as well as at the national level. Yeah.
Let's, for example, take a state organization, and you have the board of governors.
Yes.
First of all, you have the chair.
Yes.
Then you have the board. Then you have the management, the CEO, and the company secretary. What is the role of each, and what safeguards are there to ensure that one does not interfere with the other?
So in terms of governance, the boards collectively is responsible, overall responsible on matters governance. And the board is comprised of the people you have mentioned. The chair, board members, the CEO, and the company secretary. Now collectively they are responsible. However, each of them have their roles which complement each other. For instance, the chair is the leader of the board, is the head of that board. He provides board leadership. Then you have the individual board members who are supposed to be independent, not only dependent on paper, but even have independence of thoughts, that as they come to give contribution in the board meeting, they are not under influence of anybody else, either outside the organization or even within the same board. Then we also have the CEO. The CEO is the head of management. He is charged with the day-to-day running of the organization.
So the board of management.
Yes, the board of management. Once the board makes decisions, resolutions, the CEO is supposed to implement and is accountable to the board. The role of the company secretary, the company secretary has dual reporting lines. They report functionally to the board and administratively to the CEO. That is to say, because they are also employees of the organization, on all matters employment, whether they want to go on leave, they are sick, they report to the CEO. But when it comes to board functions, because their key responsibility is to advise on matters governance and every other role related to governance and ethics. When it comes to that particular function, then they report to the board. So that will be the distinction, but collectively they are held responsible on matters governance. Yeah.
What would happen in a situation whereby the CEO of an organization is being forced by the board to act in a way that he or she feels is not consistent with the company's well-being?
Now, one of the responsibilities of a CEO, first, especially in the public sector, the CEO is also a board member. One of the responsibility as a CEO in their capacity of as a board member, the law requires every board member to act for the good of the organization.
That is the law.
That is the law. But also the State Corporations Act, Section 8, provides that where the CEO or a member of management is in attendance in a meeting, and therefore the board is discussing something, and maybe whatever they are discussing, the CEO is not aligned to that, they are allowed to give their opinion, which is contrary to what the board is saying, and they even allowed to have their opinion recorded in the minutes, so that if the board is saying, let us sell this building, but as a CEO, I think otherwise, I can have my opinion recorded there. But finally, is to say that at the end of the day, as a CEO, you still be held liable, especially when the law, there is involvement of either misappropriation of resources or you are breaking the law. And therefore, you have to make a decision between obeying an illegal directive and obeying the law, which takes precedence. you should be guided by the best interest of the organization. But let me say this, in most cases, we have, if you raise these issues in a board meeting, most of the time you have sober board members who will come to your help and they will see the sense in it. But what happens, most of us are CEOs, because you're also interested in doing the illegal action. So
you participate.
Yes, you are also a beneficiary in that, so you are happy to participate.
So you become a partaker of that illegal activity.
Yes.
But I also want to hear this. I mean, we've had a situation whereby when maybe there is a financial mismanagement or maybe the wrong decisions were made and there are prosecutions to be done. In most cases, the people you see being prosecuted are not board members, are not chairpersons of the board. They are the management team.
Yes.
And remember, the management is supposed to implement the decisions of the board of directors. So what does the law say, and at what point are chairpersons and board members, held to account?
It's not exactly accurate. We have quite a number of cases where the entire board has been taken to court and prosecuted.
But how many occasions? I mean, they're
quite
very
a number
rare.
of them, including being summoned in Parliament. However, in quite a number of instances also what happens,
In the majority of cases.
yes, the majority of cases, you find some of these issues of misappropriation of resources. It's not that they are sanctioned by the board. So the board is actually able to demonstrate that this is the budget we approved the procurement plan, but the CEO went outside what we approved. And therefore, in that case, the CEO and management will carry the cross. However, if as a CEO I was able to demonstrate that actually the board is also involved, then the board would also be prosecuted. It only happens that now that I'm the one in charge of the day-to-day operations of the institution, and therefore most of the time, for instance, in public sector, not even a single shilling can be spent without the authorization of the CEO. Doesn't matter who else authorizes, the CEO must authorize. So it is very difficult for any misappropriation of resources to happen without the CEO being involved, because at the end of the day, you are the accounting officer. Yeah.
I know we have inductions for board members.
Yes.
But do we have inductions for board of management?
Yes, we do. We do carry out inductions for especially the senior managers, those who are involved especially in board operations. And as an institute, for example, every year we carry out, I would say, 3 major programs. One is for chairpersons, another one is for CEOs, another one is for board members, but the last one is for senior management, where we take on board those who deal with the board at senior level, and to take them through their responsibility, not their technical responsibility, but their fiduciary responsibility, to tell them that the law, because they are officers of the organization, the law actually expects them also to act in the best interest of the organization. So I would not 100% say that people do the wrong thing because they don't know. Sometimes in some instances that is possible, but in most instances, I think in this country, especially in the public sector, we have done a lot of capacity building. Yeah.
You see, when you look at the history of ICS, I mean, it goes back all the way to the 1980s, when it was the Institute of Certified Public Sectors of Kenya.
Yes.
And so you are looking at more than 30 years. Why are we still grappling with governance and ethical issues in corporate boards?
Now, issues of governance, issues of ethics, I would say they are issues of the heart. We have very good policies in this country, but we need to have the policies move from the book to the head to the heart. Most of our policies either are still in the books, and where we have done well, they have like now through the inductions, we have taken them to the head. They are yet to sink to the heart. Now, the sinking process or going to the heart is a matter of, one, personal choice, but secondly, our enforcement process. And I think that is the most important thing. That if I was sure, if I steal 10 shillings, in a matter of days, I'll be caught, maybe I'll be fined 10,000. I'll do my maths and see there is no need of stealing these 10 shillings. But now, since I'm not very sure that even if I steal these 10 shillings, either I may not be caught, or if I will be caught, it will take 20 years for it to be discovered. And even if I'm discovered, most likely I may or may not be punished, or even I may get a penalty of 1 shilling. So as a rational human being, I'll be motivated to take the 10 shilling. So the issue of implementation and enforcement, and therefore it is very important that our law enforcement agencies also are proactive and are efficient in ensuring that the law is enforced to the letter.
You see, when the Mwongozo Code was drafted in 2015, the drafters were hoping that, or were believing, let me use the word believe, that the government would take into consideration political appointees as well as independent board members. Is it happening?
Now, there are two types of board members in a state corporation. You have what I'll call representatives of various government agencies. An institution like this, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, you'd ordinarily have a representative from National Treasury, and also a representative from parent ministry, and any other government agency. Mwongozo envisaged, in addition to that, we should then have other private Kenyans who are not coming there by virtue of the positions they hold, but they are coming to this institution by virtue of their qualification, experience, and the value they would bring to this.
The core competence.
Yes, the core competence. I would say to some extent that is happening because we still have these people who are not necessarily working in government. Maybe the only issue would be how do they come in. But in terms of whether
how is the problem?
Yes, the process. But in terms of whether
they're supposed to be 1/3 of the board members.
Yes.
And a board is supposed to be made up of between 6 and 9 members.
According to Mwongozo, it should be 9 to 11.
9 to 11.
Yes.
9 to 11 members. And largely this is being adhered to, especially in the public sector. You don't have a board that is too bloated. When you look at Mwongozo, I mean, how many years down the line, 10 years down the line, are there loopholes that you feel we are supposed to deal with?
There are a number of them, while we acknowledge that quite a number of areas have been implemented. For instance, what you've just alluded to, the size of the board. A few years ago, especially in our universities, councils used to be like barazas. That has been implemented. However, there are a few areas we are still grappling with. For example, we earlier on talked about board composition, that the board is comprised of the chairman, board members, the CEO, and the corporation secretary. You find in a few state corporations.
And they also and the board is also supposed to reflect the face of Kenya.
Yes, the face of Kenya.
And gender representation as well.
Yes, as well as other diversities, including experience. And so when you look at that composition, one, sometimes diversity is not there. You may find an organization like this.
And you're talking about diversity in terms of experience or technical experience.
Yes, technical experience, even qualifications. I have come across a few boards who don't have, for instance, even a single accountant, yet you have an audit committee, which you record ordinarily to be chaired by somebody with experience in that area. You also have a few boards not many though, who you still find the CEO acting as the secretary to the board, which is a very dangerous governance practice. So that needs to be separated. However, majority of the boards have actually embraced the best practice where you have the CEO and also you have the corporation secretary. But also the other thing is, while some in their policies you can see they have put that whatever requirements are there in the policy, but in practice is not there. For instance, in a theory you may say the role of the chairman and that of the CEO are separate, because you can see the CEO's offices, this and all that. But in practice, in some organizations, you find chairmen or chairpersons who report to organizations on day-to-day basis. They are like executive chairpersons.
People.
And especially immediately after their appointment, some of them before they understand their mandate, I think they normally have a notion that their role is to supervise the CEO. And therefore they want to report on day-to-day to check whether the CEO has reported to work. So you still have some of those gaps. However, I would say the main challenge we have is not even in the gaps, is the implementation of what is already there. Of course, there are also other emerging issues like the ESG that needs to be captured there. Now we are talking about new technologies, the artificial intelligence. We need to see how the same is accommodated, issues of cyber security. So there are a few areas that need to be captured. But I would say largely Mwongozo is very good even as it is now. If only we implement it, we will be very far.
As we wind up this interview, when you look at Mwongozo in terms of interpretation and implementation, what percentage would you assign it?
I would say it will depend with the institutions, but largely speaking, I would say if I was to put them collectively together, I would say we are not doing very bad. Maybe around 65–70% there, which is
65–70%.
Yes, but I would be quick also to mention those who are doing well are doing very well, but there are also a number of state corporations who are lagging quite behind. And credit goes to the State Corporations Advisory Committee, has done marvelous work in terms of ensuring implementation of these provisions of Mwongozo. And that's why as an institute, we have supported SCAC as well as the Public Service Commission because we developed this document jointly to ensure that the same is implemented to the letter.
These days, and I like the fact that you brought in that issue. I mean, we don't have executive chairpersons.
Yes.
Do we still have them in government?
No, we don't have executive chairpersons.
But do you still have chairpersons who act as if they are executive? Is it out of self-interest, a lack of knowledge, or out of malice?
I would say majority of them, first to answer, yes, there are few chairs who act like executive chairs, and I have come across quite a number of them as we do these inductions. Majority of them, I would say, is out of ignorance, because when we actually induct them, some of them are actually very surprised that they are not supposed to be acting as such. So I would say induction, the Institute of Certified Secretaries, the inductions we've been doing for these chairpersons have bore fruits, because quite a number of them, when we come back later, we find significant improvement. And part of the processes that we have used to measure that is through a program we call the Champions of Governance Award, where we come to institutions and assess their governance practices. So you come this year, and part of the things you are told is our chairperson behaves like an executive chair. After we take them through an induction and what is their roles and responsibilities, and actually show them that they are exposing themselves. It's actually a risk. When you find a chairperson signing documents, they're exposing themselves because they are not there on day-to-day basis to know the nitty-gritties of what they are committing to. After you take them through such induction, the following year, you actually find some of those institutions emerging among the best evaluated in terms of governance practice.
I have heard these, especially from private governance players, that one of the requirements that the government should implement is to ensure that board members are members of certain professional organizations. Do you align with those thoughts?
That would be very helpful if board members, CEOs were members of professional associations, because what professional bodies do, whichever professional body, is there is continuous development programs, but also professionals are held professionally accountable for their actions. And therefore, as I act, I know there is a professional body behind which I may be required to account to. So I would highly recommend that board members are members. But also secondly, and connected to that, we need to get to a place where we are saying, based on the institution, there are certain professions. For instance, you come to an institution like this KBC, you say that because of the work you are doing, a certain number of board members must belong to this profession, another percentage this profession, so that again you have a diversified board which is able to support the CEO and the organization at large.
Before I let you go, I also want to hear these. When you look at the implementation of the Mwongozo, you know, there are various players who are involved. You have the ICS, you have the ESAC, and you also have the Public Service Commission.
Yes.
Should we have an entity whose business is to ensure that Mwongozo is followed to the letter?
Yes, and even now we do have, because the State Corporations Advisory Committee under the State Corporations Act, its main responsibility is to advise the President on matters of management of state corporations. So that's why when Mwongozo was issued the executive decree by the President, part of their responsibility was actually to support or to advise the President on the status of implementation of Mwongozo. So they execute that mandate through various ways. And again, under the Act, for instance, the State Corporations Act, we also have bodies like the Inspector of State Corporations, who also come to institutions to inspect. But also in addition, we have the Auditor General. The Auditor General, as per the Constitution, is charged with the responsibility of every year auditing institutions and reporting to Parliament on the way they are managed. So it's not that we don't have institutions. Maybe the question is what you had asked earlier, 10 years down the line, or even us as an institute or the other institutions, what have we done? Maybe we need all of us to up our game, because institutions are there, and all these people are paid by taxpayers. I think what we need to do is put more effort in ensuring that what needs to be done is done.
Very well. Anything else we need to hear from you before we wind up?
First, as I appreciate this opportunity, is also to encourage institutions, do the right thing. Those who are charged with the responsibility of managing institutions, you are stewards. You have been given a responsibility to manage those institutions on behalf of Kenyans. Kindly be faithful and good stewards. At the Institute of Certified Secretaries, we look forward to partnering with you to support you in your stewardship responsibility.
Very good.
Thank you.
Jeremiah Karanja, FCS, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. We have been talking to fellow Certified Secretary Jeremiah Karanja. He's the CEO of Institute of Certified Secretaries, joining us here to help us understand the implementation and the adherence to the Mwongozo Code of Governance, which was enacted back in 2015. You have been watching Inside Government, and I just want to alert you this. Inside Government from next week will be airing every Wednesday at 8 to 9 p.m. Of course, there will be a repeat every Friday, so there's that change in terms of time. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you for watching KBC Channel 1. Have a good afternoon.